Boom, hello, and welcome to the Protect Your Nation podcast, a podcast that is dedicated to making the world a better place, making the world a safer place by making good people dangerous. In this podcast, we're going to study and understand what it takes to protect your family, to protect your loved ones, because we all know that you have a few basic needs, food, water, and shelter, but you also have the need to protect those things in a world and society where evil runs rampant and is sometimes left unchecked. Learning how to protect yourselves and your loved ones is becoming more and more important. And so we strive to raise the level of accountability to those who would do evil on this planet by making sure that the sheep, that the flock, is more well-versed in protecting themselves and their loved ones. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the show. Out. Boom, what's up, you guys? Byron Rodgers here, hanging with my boy, Sonny with Sixsight. It's an honor to have you here, brother. How you doing? How you holding up?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's actually an honor to be on your podcast, leading the way.
Dude, thank you, man. I'm trying, I'm doing my best to just, it's very interesting. I think one of the things that drew me to you is that you do a lot. We do a lot of the same types of things, but it's like awesome to see another dude who gets it to where it's like, look, man, like personal protection and self-defense, but really personal protection doesn't require you to be like a Jedi. Like, it's not about the muscles. It's not about the strength. Like, your pattern of life has nothing to do with any of those things, man. And so I want to commend you for that, man. I was so refreshed to be like, there's a cool brand out here with good information that's also talking about, soft skills, So awesome work with that, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much my whole deal, because I'm not like the biggest guy. You can see I'm not that jacked up. I'm just a little guy. And when I say that I'm an EP, like bodyguard for civilians, people just look at me quite strangely like, oh, you don't look like a bodyguard, because they have this warped perception of what we're doing. Like, but in reality, if you're actually having to like get in a fight, you're in a bad situation, you've messed up multiple times in the lead up to that situation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No, 100%. And I think it's kind of interesting now, the way the direction our industry is going. There's definitely a place for the big guys, and I'm by no means one of them. I mean, I'm a good sized dude, I'm 240, 235, depending on what I ate, and about 5'10", but I'm usually like the smallest guy if I want to detail half the time, depending on what we're doing. But then in the more corporate stuff, and kind of the older money crowd, a lot of them want guys that are off the radar, that are able to just walk into a coffee shop with them and everyone doesn't go, who's that guy with the big guy? Like, I don't even know who that guy is, but he's with someone, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that in the industry?
Oh, definitely. That's actually my niche or niche, however you say it over there, because I try to blend in, and that's why I'm hired. I'm actually on a job at the moment where it's like protective surveillance. So the client is like, basically, I want you to protect me, but I don't want you anywhere near me. I don't want to ever see you. And also, I'm not going to tell you where I'm going either. So you're like, all right, thanks.
No, 100%.
I'll just follow you around and do my best. So,
right.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, that's where I fit in a lot of the corporate stuff. And I've traveled around Europe, usually on my own. It's usually they want you to stand off a bit and blend in. But there's definitely, there's parts for each type of person. And traditionally it's going, for me, I've done all right. I've done a different sort of avenue. But I think also it depends on the client. Like, I've never actually worked in the music industry, but that's very hands-on, I expect. And do you do much work in the music industry, do you?
Me? No, man. I haven't done much work. I have worked in those environments. A lot of the stuff that I've done has been corporate and a lot of pastoral protection and things like that. So, but a few actors and singers as well. And that's generally where you find that, like, you literally need a human that's big enough to move another human or group of humans at any given time. But then when I get into the more corporate stuff, or, with more places of worship, it's like there's a lot more politics, And so it's kind of cool. I remember it used to make me a little insecure when I started, but now it's kind of cool to be like I can kind of move in between both worlds. And it's kind of cool not to be that big sometimes.
Yeah.
When I started, I got up to 260 though. It was crazy.
Wow.
I'm glad I'm not there anymore. But anyways, man, more about you, brother. You guys that are watching this, we are going to get into some real world videos. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that Sony uses to help people understand how to live safer patterns of life. And we're going to talk about his experiences, but you're going to see firsthand how this stuff can work in your life. But before we do that, Sony, why don't you give everyone a little brief overview of your background, brother?
So I'm obviously English. You can tell by my accent, from London. Cool. And yeah, I joined the Royal Marine Commandos when I was 21, and I went through that pathway, became corporal, which is section commander we have different ranking system. And then I went reservist, and I went into UKSF. I did selection as a reservist, and I joined the United Kingdom Special Forces. And then when I came out of that, I started working in the world of corporate espionage. So I was doing surveillance on a whole number of clients, usually for rich people paid to spy on other rich people. And then I work as a close protection or executive protection operator following on from that. But also winding back right to the beginning, I've always had an interest in like fighting, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's also where a lot of my content comes from, because I did get in a lot of trouble as a youngster. And to just ignore that part of my life would be a lot of experience wasted, to be honest. So I use that a little bit when I'm trying to teach certain concepts and things.
Yeah.
So I have the experience of what not to do, and then I can teach you what you should actually do.
No, man, that's what's up. I love it, and it's a different approach, because we have so many different people in our space that are like have the military, the heavy, SEAL, or have the State Department, or have the Secret Service type background and stuff like that. But the corporate espionage background, man, that's valuable. That's interesting.
That was some of the most fun work I've ever done. So we're working in small teams, mainly in London and around Europe. And we were tasked with finding out certain information about individuals. And sometimes on a number of jobs, that individual, being a rich person, actually has an EP guy or team with them, so like playing cat and mouse, and that's a hard thing to do, but it's also incredibly fun and challenging. And you got a team of guys and girls, because it's very mixed in the corporate espionage sort of world. Females can get into places and get next to people that obviously men would draw attention to. So we did some stuff that was actually on the grey area as well, like pushing the boundaries. But there's a lot of technology and stuff like vehicle trackers and stuff, which has also helped me in being an executive protection operator, because I'm looking for stuff like that other people aren't really caring about, and I'm like, nah, this stuff goes on because I used to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we jump into some of these real world clips, who would you say, who are you at your core, man? Who's like the man behind the work?
Well, I'd love to say that I am a family man now, and I'd like to be a gentleman, but in all honesty, I am actually a fighter at my core, and I've always been drawn to fighting, and I'm quite an aggressive person. Even though people say, oh, you look real nice and cute, Sonny, people kind of misjudge me. So I've always been in boxing, and now I do a bit of MMA, and I have to train to keep myself mentally sane as well as just like physically able to do the job. So I do like a scrap, and that's a bit of an English heritage thing as well, That is. Old football hooliganism and stuff.
Dude, I think that's awesome, man. And I think it's a really powerful thing when warriors find themselves in this vocation, man, So I completely agree. Like that's how I got here, was me being like, hey, how can I do something positive with the fact that I'm a warrior, and like I'm generally here to use the tool of violence and different things, but to protect and do something positive. And so it took me a while. Obviously the Marine Corps And then, finally into executive protection, I started to be like, wow, that's amazing. And then now, here we are using our skills and our experience to strengthen other people, which I think is just awesome, dude.
Yeah, and that's for me. That's what the Royal Marines did for me. It took me from like a bit of a ready to go thug. I was never a criminal, but I was always scrapping in nighttime venues and stuff. It took me, and it really sharpened me, and made me into the man I am today. And it was a great thing, to be honest, because it like young men could easily go down a different path, but joining the military really turns you into something to be proud of. I think.
Heck yeah, dude. I couldn't agree more. Like, I think so many of us were one decision or getting caught away from like a completely different path. Like, fortunately, we made it in the recruiter's office before just like getting caught doing something crazy and being a felon, basically. I mean, that's how I was. That's how I was.
Yeah, it's easily done, especially if you're in the peer group. Man. When you're growing up. But yeah, the military is a good route, especially if you're like aggressive. And I was aggressive. And then when you join the Marines or any military unit, you're like, that aggression is channeled and seen as a favorable thing and looked at as a good thing. So yeah, I recommend the military for anybody in that sort of time of life.
No, 100%. I couldn't agree more. What's up with this MMA thing real quick? Yo, did you just really just decide to like tell the story real quick? I got to hear that story.
Well, I moved to Canada 3 years ago, and I landed in Canada. I didn't know anyone. Like, we just moved my family here, and I wanted to fight MMA. So I was at a gym, but the way the gyms work, I've been through the boxing gyms in my youth, and like it's like a tier system. You have to be there, you have to earn your respect, climb the ladder, then you might get coached, and then you have some fights. But time's ticking for me, I don't have that time, and I really wanted to fight, so I just entered I contacted a promoter in America, in Washington, actually Everett, and then said, I want to fight, but I'm an independent fighter. I don't have a coach or a gym. And he said, I've got this guy, and he's had 7 previous fights, and he's a weight class above you, but you can have him if you want it. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So then I trained.
He's a weight class above you. Was that in small print? Or
Well, no, it was basically take it or leave it. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. That's it. Let's do it. So then I trained, I had a few weeks to train, and then I put an advert on Craigslist down in America, in Washington, for some cornermen, and I got some. And then when I drove down there, I met him in the parking lot, and then I went into the cage and fought 3 rounds, and I got ragdolled all over the show. Because being an Englishman, I did a bit of jiu-jitsu, and I'm a boxer traditionally. I didn't have the wrestling background, so I learned my lesson there, but I managed to finish the fight with all 3 rounds. It was decision, and the guy that I was fighting actually finished a few opponents in the past, so I was very happy with that. And then I went and did it again, my second fight, and I fought a purple belt actually in jiu-jitsu, and I was white belt, and I ended up getting beat the first round and coming back in the second and winning. And I was very proud of that. And then I got picked up by an MMA gym locally, and they said, "Oh, train with us." And I jumped the queue, and now I'm in the fighter category, and I'm training with them until COVID actually stopped it. So I want to have some professional fights, basically. That's a dream of mine since I was a kid.
Man. Yeah. Such a great story. Such a great way to enter the realm, man. I love it, man. He who dares. I mean, you should be saying this, man. Yeah, I wish we could steal that motto from you guys, man. He who dares wins. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
No, that's a beautiful story about just being determined and going and getting out there and getting after it, man. It says a lot about you, a lot about your psychology. It makes you way more interesting, Social media is riddled with people that are just trying to be cool, and I've always endeavored to be somebody who's trying to give value, because I'm not that cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not that cool. Like, I like my tattoos. That's kind of cool, but you know what I mean. But like, that's like,
I don't know if that's very true, man. I've been watching your Instagram for a while. I think it looks pretty cool.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? So that I love seeing people that are like multidimensional. It's not like, here's me shooting, and here's me shooting in a Hawaiian shirt, and here's me shooting underneath the car, and here's me, you know what I mean? Yeah. But giving a lot of value. And that are multidimensional. The fight thing, and the way you approach the game is something the industry needs, because those of us who don't have an education in all this like spy type espionage type stuff, we're ultra vulnerable to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you get into the civilian world, me trying to help the world become a safer place by helping good people become more dangerous. It's like those who don't see, they're not, some say sheepdogs, some say it takes a wolf to catch a wolf, some say lions lay down with lambs, but those who are not predators naturally, they really got to learn how to think like we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what the heck we're about to break into here with this video, man.
Yeah, I agree totally. And that's some of that. It comes with life experience as well as the training. And, I learned by a lot of mistakes in my life. And some of the mistakes I didn't learn, I continued and then went even further, deeper down that path. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do as well. Trying to give people a head start that haven't had this training or the experience of being in bad neighborhoods, for instance.
Right.
Because these days, if you do make a mistake, you can end up losing your life, like with where I'm from, knives are the weapon of choice, and knife crime is incredibly rampant. It's an epidemic in itself. And like weapons are just a new thing. Like when I was growing up, people were just fighting. That was it. And now in my hometown, people are getting stabbed every weekend. So it's evolving, isn't it? And the skills of being a fighter there's no gentleman rules anymore. There's no like Queensberry rules. Like someone will just pull a weapon and then that's it. And index.
Yeah, no more honor, man. Nothing safe anymore. No more like, hey, let's duke it out outside. We'll go, and everyone's trying to sue. It's crazy. And for those of you who don't know and haven't been overseas, London and over there, man, and Britain and all those places, like it's like I feel like you guys look really clean and chic and stuff when you want to, but you guys are like New Yorkers. You're like European New Yorkers. Like if you make a wrong turn, you'll get cussed out. Like if you you walk in the streets and bump into someone, like they might throw down with you, man. Like people there's like a type of roughness that you guys have over there that I've always thought is pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I agree. And also because we're so condensed, we're just squashed into small areas. We don't have the land space. Like people build up and everyone's living on top of each other. And people like where I used to live in London, there's a lot of gangs, and those gangs aren't like out of sight. They're literally on the street and you have to walk past them. So this is a problem that I had when I moved there. I went there to go to university, and I was from a different part of like down south. And then I found myself in this new environment with hostile gangs that got bad reputation. They're very territorial, and I was getting challenged like where you from and stuff, and I didn't know how to act in that situation. So I had to learn how to become an insider to that environment. And there's certain things that I did that ended up I could just walk through and I wasn't getting challenged no matter where I was going. And these things I actually learned when I've moved further down the line in my career as well. But these are the sort of things that I'm trying to teach people, which are soft skills, like you said before. They're more, they're not really, I don't really go into the fighting sort of stuff too much because that is the last resort. I'm trying to teach everything in the build up to avoidance and prevention and deterring threats is my main.
That's the game, man. We win 100% of the fights that we don't get in. So this video, we're still having a little bit of a, for whatever reason, it's actually not playing. So what I'm going to do is let's go to your other video real quick. Fortunately, 2 is 1, 1 is none, right?
Yeah.
So let's walk us through this bad boy.
Okay, so this happened in Vancouver, where I actually currently live, and it was in the middle of the daytime, as you can see. And the guy behind, I would call that like a threat profile, criminal profile, the way that he's dressed. And he's obviously a male of the fighting age male. So he just began following this lady around Vancouver in broad daylight. And later down the line, he gets arrested and we find out that he's done this to multiple other women in the area. He's actually in prison now. But it's a scary thing, isn't it? Just look at that. He's literally and he gets very close. And she gets out her phone, she videos it. I don't kind of agree with that, because it may have deterred him a little bit. I think she was on a live stream, but personally, I wouldn't get out my phone. There's other things that you can do, and she does actually. This is part of my game plan: is to give people a tool bag and have different options other than fighting.
Yeah, man.
Especially in the daytime. So she's walking away from him, but for her, she needs to think about the ground that she's in, and she needs to associate herself. That's what she's doing now with other people is one option that I call apparent allies. So if you're ever being followed at any time of the day, it's a animalistic strategy, safety in numbers. So she actually walks to a skate park here and she associates herself with some strangers who she's seen sitting around, and they help her out because she's literally in need of help. And I believe that a lot of people will help you if you're in a situation like this. So it's also profiling the people that you're approaching on the street and seeing whether they are a good person to try and attach yourself to or not.
Yeah. So what would you say, man? So, all right, chick A is walking down the street, and she realizes she's being followed. What's kind of the checklist? What's kind of the moves for someone when they see something like that?
Well, first of all, is situational awareness is the big deal. And when you're, say, this lady was walking out of a train station, she's just about to step into a new environment that isn't clear. So you need to check your surroundings at that time. And that would be shoulder checks, so near and far. And that gives you the opportunity to spot the threat early on. And this video here is
hold up. I'm going to go back to that other one. Looks like we finally got, bear with me, y'all. Bear with me. We finally got that other video up. We'll hit that one here in a second. Bop, bop, bop. So you're talking shoulder checks.
Yeah. So when you're stepping into a new environment, you need to check your surroundings.
Right.
And there's certain times of the day which would be more important. The threats will be higher. And I call these times your switch on times. So this is a play on the alert states like Cooper's colors. Instead of teaching civilians like this quite complex system, I just want to teach like this is a time when you need to switch on, and that's switch your situational awareness switch on and start acting and behaving a little bit different, so you're more aware of your surroundings. So shoulder checks is the first one. You need to spot that threat early on, and if you do spot that threat, then moving away from it, there's some other techniques you can use to confirm if that person is following you, and that goes down in the tradecraft sort of route. So one of them, which is a very important one, which I use every day, maybe I've been a bit paranoid, is like a crossover technique. So this is what we call a natural look back. So it's an opportunity to look behind yourself without obviously turning around and looking behind yourself. And also you're creating distance between you and that person. So you cross over the street. And as you do so, you check for traffic, left and then right. And when you're looking back for traffic, you're checking behind yourself just to confirm if that person is following you. So you're getting good information about that person. You can see if they're carrying a weapon, if they're actually showing you attention, but also you're creating distance, and you're also setting a trap because you're crossing. And this guy who's following this guy here, he's not surveillance trained. He's just a criminal. So he is most likely going to cross at the same point that you crossed. So that gives you an opportunity to know, all right, he's crossed over. So if you're going down one street and let's say it's a straight road, you cross over once, you look behind yourself, you see that he's following. At 100 meters down the road, you cross over again to your original side. If he follows again, you're pretty sure that this guy is following you. You set a trap there and you've confirmed. And we usually use the rule of threes in surveillance. So you would do it again, you would take three left turns or three direction changes. But doing so, you've confirmed that this person's following you, and now you need to take action. And there's a few game plans that I do have that people can take action by using.
Okay. So you walk out, you're doing your shoulder checks, you're looking across, you're looking, you're looking over your shoulder, you think you notice someone's following you, you walk, you cross the street, basically try to get them to do something off baseline that mirrors what you're doing, basically. All right, and then you confirm it with like maybe a few left turns, just so that there's no logical reason that you're like teasing out the info you need to be like, I'm confirming that this person's definitely locked onto me.
Yeah.
And then once you've confirmed that they're locked onto you and that person is following you, then what's the next bet? Especially if you're a female that's less physically potent and might not be able to really physically defend yourself or outrun the guy.
Yeah. So that is a problem. And a lot of my training is based on getting help to you so you can deal with the situation. So there's one thing that I do try to get people to do. And for me as a dad, and also I have my wife, when she comes back from work, she'll share her location on WhatsApp just so I could monitor if if something was to happen, then she'll put that phone back in her pocket.
Yeah.
And then she can deal with the situation. And that's just a precaution. But if, for the instance, if this lady here had a buddy like her dad or flatmate or her husband or someone, if she just had this agreement where if she ever just shares her location, then that person is notified, oh, why is she sharing her location? Then he can go and help her. Or if anything else goes wrong, then he knows where she is if she's abducted or whatever. Also, she needs to think about the ground that she's walking in. Usually we're creatures of habit, so we'll probably be on a regular journey. If this ever happens, most likely. If not, then you can still see things on the street that you can use to your advantage. And I call these places safe spots. So in the middle of the day, you've got a lot of options. You've got different restaurants with populated areas, basically, and places where there could be authoritative figures, like restaurants, bars in the evening because they have security in them. Even gas stations where people may conjurate around. She actually uses a skate park here where there's a lot of youngsters who are skating. So if you do find a group of people, then you just associate yourself with them. And I believe that most of the time you can walk up to people and say, excuse me, I really need your help. Like, there are good people out there, and I truly believe that. And if you're in a distressing situation, associating yourself and approaching people can actually be a big game changer. Even if they're not going to physically help, they are witnesses. They can call the police while you're dealing with the situation. But also, this is a deterrent for the bad guy. Like he's got some problems with what he wants to do. He's got a lot of witnesses around. He's got a lot of people that can fight back, and he's cut his losses and walked off. And that guy actually was arrested with a knife on him shortly afterwards. And the way that he's acting suggests that he's not looking to rob this lady. It looks like he is looking for he's more sinister intentions, to be honest, because he's not deterred by the phone videoing. And yeah, if he was to rob her, he could easily just take that phone out of her hand, but he's not doing that. It looks like he wants to follow her for something else.
Yeah, and he closed distance on her quite a bit. Like, he could have just accosted her, once she was like right about here, when she's like right in here somewhere. Side of the street, rob, move, run. He's pretty close at that point,
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, man. And then, so basically, get into a safe place with more humans, survival of the pack, elimination of the weakest. Think about when you're looking at the Discovery Channel, and the one gazelle that gets snatched up is the one that gets separated. So find the bodies of humans and ask for some help as well as for a third step. I dig it, man. Let's dig into you guys too, that you guys are watching on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. I am seeing your comments. Thanks for those. Towards the end, I'll scroll through there and see if there's any questions you guys have. Let's see if this other video, man, looked like it was actually working. Sweet. What do we got here, dude?
Okay, so here we see the pink dot is a female, and this is actually in the UK, and the blue dot is a male who's the epitome of a human predator. He is following her late at night, and this is probably a journey for her. Maybe she's got off of the train and she's walking to her house a few blocks or something, which is a switch on time, which I talk about in my training, because this is a time when you really need to start paying attention to what's going on around you and not look like an ideal victim. So you need to stay away from distractions, keep all your cell phone away, posture up, look confident, like you're an insider to the environment, and check your surroundings at different points. So she's being followed down this street, and unfortunately for her, she doesn't know at this time. She's unaware of her surroundings. She hasn't looked behind herself at all.
She's vulnerable, man.
She is very vulnerable. So at this point, if that was me, I would just cross the street there, even if I don't think anyone's following me, because that gives me an opportunity to check behind myself. And also it creates distance between you if there is a person. So he's following from quite far back. So she does have an opportunity if she's looking for him, but I don't think she is completely unaware at this time. And you can see by the person, like, we are quite a lot of the time looking at threat profile individuals. You know, you see that guy on the street, he's drawing my attention for certain. Even he's got his hood up, just the way that he's dressed. He's a fighting age male, and he's hanging around late at night on his own, and he's doesn't have a reason to be there.
Right.
He's just hanging around. So yeah, she's followed down this street. And again, you still don't see her check her surroundings. She doesn't look around the place. Luckily, she's not on a cell phone, which is the biggest deal for a lot of people.
Right.
If she had detected that threat right here, then we have some other bystanders walking past. She could approach them. And for me, I've been a protector my whole life. If someone comes up to me and says, I'm a bit worried I'm being followed, I'm going to look after that person. I think a lot of people out there will actually do that. I think we have to give trust in other human beings in situations like this. So he's followed her, and now he's actually starting to approach her and harass her, which is a very scary scenario for a lot of women out there and men. And this is something that I try to teach strategies and things. So early detection in this circumstance would be the most ideal thing, because then you can alert a buddy through the WhatsApp location, or you can call the police if you feel that you're in danger. But the most important thing is to actually be present in the situation and dealing with it instead of focused on a phone or whatever. So yeah, he's actually interacting with her now. He's harassing her a bit. And shortly he actually grabs her and he's abducting her in the middle of the street. He's holding on to her and escorting her to a secondary location. And she doesn't, there you can see it there. So she doesn't really know the danger that she's in. And at this time, if you're ever being taken, as we know, to a secondary location, this is the time to fight. This is where you fight with all your might for your life. And this is quite a morbid video, to be honest, because this lady was actually murdered by this individual. And it's quite a big story in the UK. It's a very sad story because even though there's CCTV and he's caught on CCTV and we are the most CCTV covered nation in the world, it may catch that person after the event, but it's not stopping them right there and then. You know, the crime is still being committed.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't know the danger she's in at the moment. Unfortunately, it is the most highest level of danger. So when you get to this point, if you had shared your location, you can still have help on its way to you. If you had notified the police, then you still have help on their way to you. This is the most morbid part of the video, which is the next day when he's actually disposing of the body, to be honest, and he actually carries it in a backpack down the street. So he is the worst type of human.
Into that backpack there?
He gets a different bag.
Okay.
Which we see, there you go, yeah, which is absolutely horrendous. This is a big story in the UK. So these threats on the street, obviously this is a very unlikely scenario.
In that bag?
I think yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You guys, evil is really, really, really real, you guys. I'm telling you, man, before you get into a car or get into a space, I think I have another video coming up on something like this as well. If you got to get shot on the street, get shot on the street. If you got to get stabbed in the open with people around, get stabbed and fight, get away, run, be the most difficult and horrible person that they try to victimize. It's a very big deal. To once you go to that secondary location and you are segregated away from the rest of the public, you're at their mercy. You don't want to be at the mercy of evil, man. That is huge.
Yeah, that's a horrendous story, that one. But my whole premise is on the early detection of that threat. If you don't have the ability to fight or the experience in fighting, which I recommend everyone should take some time out of their life to train in some sort of fighting art, martial art. But the reality that I've found is a lot of the people that need this are actually not going to take that time out of their lives to do it. You know, so that's where we come in as protectors. And a lot of my training is to teach other parents or other protectors so they can drip feed this information down to the people around them and send that information around. But the main thing is early detection. And once you detect the threat, then you've got other options. But if you don't use situational awareness to detect that threat, then you're really on the back foot. And she only detected the threat when the guy is a few meters away from her. Unfortunately, that was too late.
Man. What would you say to parents, a few considerations when they're out with the kids and ways to keep the kids and things like that safe, or the family safe.
Yeah, this is a big thing. You're literally the bodyguard for your family, and that whether you like it or not, you have that role, and you can't get away from that. And you should live with that role. That's something that I'm very proud of, and obviously that's what you want to be. But for me, the most important aspects are observation and tactical positioning. So to be able to see threats, you have to feed your most valuable asset, and that is your eyes. And tactical positioning comes into that, because if you're standing in a good position where you've got good arcs of vision on the likely place of threats, then even if you're distracted or slightly distracted, you've got a good opportunity to see anything that's coming or developing. And if you're ever walking with children, obviously you always want to be in between the threat and them, but you also have to look further afield, because you don't want to be walking into trouble. And a lot of the stuff that I actually teach for is in big cities, like where I live in Vancouver. We do have a lot of street crime. We do have a lot of homelessness and mental instability on the street, as well as that mixed in with drug use. I'm not saying all these people are criminals, but we cannot ignore the fact that some of these people are mentally unstable. Like, I've seen it multiple times of outbursts on the street,
just random attacks, random outbursts, man.
I've seen it.
You're evil all of a sudden, and they're attacking you because they're having an episode and they believe you're a bad thing. It happens in LA and major cities a lot.
And this is a big threat. I believe in. A lot of people are saying, oh, they're harmless. They're not harmless, a lot of them. And there's a lot of crime that comes with this. Drug addictions need to be fueled. Drug supply needs to keep coming. There is a criminal underworld that attaches it to these poor souls and the environments they're in. And obviously avoidance of these areas is a good idea, but a lot of people can't avoid these areas because they have to move through them to get to work or to do their daily deeds. So there's some different strategies that can be used if you do have to move through these places.
Right. What would you say about pre-threat indicators? So a civilian hears that term, they're like, okay, what should I be looking for, to really tease out who is dangerous and when they're dangerous?
So there's a lot of pre-attack indicators, pre-threat indicators, and a lot of those come into when you're very close. But a lot of my teachings is for spotting people up ahead of you that you still got some distance and you still got time to walk the other way or cross the street. So one of the main things that I like to talk about is, does that person have a reason to be there? So in this day and age, for a fighting age male to be standing on the street, not looking at their phone, not preoccupied with another task, if it's like in the nighttime, then that is an alarm bell that leads me to give them more attention, because it's unusual now. It might be for an older person, but that older person is not really a threat profile and shouldn't be high on the list of priorities for us. So if they don't have a reason to be there, on the other hand, if they're standing at a bus stop, idly standing there, they're waiting for a bus. But if they're standing on the side of the street, if they're practicing a level of situational awareness themselves, then this is another alarm bell. Because if they're looking out, the only people practicing situational awareness are the good guys and the bad guys.
I love it, man. And that context, man. Context is huge. What is this dude doing in this environment, man? Why are they there? It can really help you understand. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, what we are talking about is profiling, behavioral profiling. Everyone's profiling all the time. You profiled the chick that just walked in the room. Salespeople are profiling you when you walk into the department store. Profiling is a skill that effective humans learn to master to help them navigate reality more effectively and navigate interpersonal relationships more effectively. You do profile, but you got to get good at it. If you're going to be a protector and live a safer pattern of life, this stuff is like, these are the nuts and bolts of what makes us, empowers us to do what it is we want to do, before things get crazy, as it's very integral to who we are and what we got to bring to the game, man.
I agree, especially as EP protectors, like profiling, you have to move through environments and just clear people like that. And you can't take the time to analyze every little thing about them. It's like clear, and you got to move through. And that's a skill that you can take into civilian life. And I think a lot of people, especially women, have an intuition that speaks to them about certain men when they're in these situations too. And that's another thing that I would really push on about, especially for women, is to listen to your intuition. And if you have any sort of niggling, like meandering signs or any feelings in yourself that is, oh, I don't like this person, then there's probably a reason for that, and you should listen to it and not ignore it.
And I think what women specifically do wrong is they will assign, I think because of something to do with fear or politeness or society treating them to be polite, or they've had no contact with anything evil before, so they have no experiential information that would tell them, hey, pay attention to that. They might write it off as like, oh, well, no, he's just standing by my car because, he just needs his car's next to my car. They'll come up with these excuses and these reasons for nefarious behavior sometimes, and that can ultimately result in some really negative things. We always know the truth, I find. I feel like, it's just what our brain does with it after we take it in a lot of cases, man.
Yeah, I agree. And you have that situation with victims of crime, sometimes women, saying, oh, I got in the elevator with him. I didn't want to be impolite or offend him, but they knew something was up. You're not in a signed legal contract to walk past that person or enter the elevator. And there's also tactics you can use, like play a little bit of acting. Oh, I just got a call. Oh, you don't have to just obviously walk past. There's some different strategies you can use to avoid going into these situations, which I actually go into in my training as well.
Heck yeah, because the context matters. Right before you get on that elevator, you still have a chance to come up with an excuse. Right when that dude walks into your department store and you're like, you can still be like, oh, I need to go in the back and do some things with the boxes and go back there and make a call, or just sit back there and watch them on the cameras for a while, until the store's packed and you feel a certain way. Or especially when we're out doing EP, man, like you got to have the shortcuts. You got to see the pre-threat indicators, and you've got to be ready because they pick the time and place. So you want to cheat as much as you can, What would you say about realistic self-defense tactics, disciplines, and things like that?
I come from a boxing background, which isn't a traditional like self-defense thing, but the most important thing for me is the flinch reflex. Yeah, because everyone can throw a punch and hit a punch bag. But knowing how to take a punch or to avoid a punch or block a punch is the biggest thing to overcome in any fight situation. So when we talk about self-defense, I just see it as a fight, basically, because if you're using self-defense moves, you're in a bloody fight. And the way that real street fights work is bam, 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 bam. It needs to be fast, sporadic, hard, fast, aggressive. And you're going to get hit. You go out in the storm, you're going to get wet, so that and the first time you ever get punched in the face, if it's at the day of the race, then you're on the back foot and you're disorientated, and that's one of the biggest problems. And a lot of the videos we both post and see is people getting knocked out in nighttime venues and stuff. It's because they don't have a real expectation. They don't know their own capabilities. They think maybe that's why some other martial arts that I don't really believe in are giving people a full sense of their own capabilities. So I think anything that allows you to have some sort of sparring at some time, some real life scenarios, and anything that helps you defend. Like my life, I've always put defense over offense. Like if I'm comfortable with slipping a punch, then I can throw my own punches. But if you're not comfortable with defending yourself first, then that will probably come back to bite you in a situation. But speaking of that, and that I know you've spoken, you have Tony Blauer on your protector synopsis, and that I actually did his class, not from him, one of his instructors a long time ago, and that literally tackles what I'm talking about, the flinch reflex. And I think it is the best standalone training that you can do if you want to do one thing to give yourself a better chance in a fight or self-defense situation.
100%. And since you mentioned it, shameless plug, we have a free training guide for you guys. It'll be in the comments. You can learn from close to a dozen of the elite instructors we've had at Protector Symposiums. Click that link, check out the free training guide. You can start learning from the comfort of your own home. Tony Blauer is one of them. Protector Symposium 2.0. It's in that library. You guys will have access to the whole library at an extremely discounted rate. But weaponizing the startle flinch and turning your body into a human weapon is what he talks about. And then you'd be surprised, man. Another thing I love about your content, Sony, is like, it kills me. Two things. One, when we're talking about combatives and all that stuff, false sense of security based on what you're studying. I think a lot of people in the US get a gun and they have a false sense of security. They think they know how, okay, I'm better at the range and I can draw and I can shoot on some targets and I can aim and I can shoot my gun. Boom. Oh, I hit the bullseye. Like, I'm gangster. Like, no, you're not, because half these altercations start off in the physical realm, you know, like, can you draw your weapon, whether it's a knife or a gun, under human pressure? Can you move? And can you think about solve higher quality problems while you're working with whatever weapon system, you know? And you're 100% right. If you can't spar, if it can't be done at speed and what you're training, those results can't be replicated at speed, then you're living in a fantasy about your actual capabilities. And if you're not testing them, then how do you know, you know? So, integrated combatives and things like that, man, get your heart rate up and practice your trash, you know. The other real quick shameless plug I want to hit these guys with is tonight. In fact, I will pull up the link for you guys, but tonight we are going to have another live webinar where we're going to talk about this Protector Symposium 4.0. Those seats are limited. I think we have a few more. It's a free webinar where I'm going to talk about what we've got coming up October 1st through the 3rd. Hope you guys come and train with us. But yeah, man, no, I love this stuff. I'm gonna put that comment in the comment section. Realistic martial arts are huge, because if you are doing these things and you really want to be strong and formidable, you have to be practicing these things under stress. Otherwise, you the first time you get punched in the face in the real world, like Sony said, it's not going to be what you want. It's not. I mean, you're going to be doing you're going to be way behind the power curve, because you got to think, man. The wolf is out there, and the wolf is here's for our live training. This is for our actual on-ground training event coming up. Hope you guys check that out. The wolf, they're living a life. They're getting jumped into clubs. I bet you this wasn't the first time this dude did this thing and chopped that lady up and put her in a bag. I bet you it wasn't the first time. Yeah, he's walking around cool with a body on his back. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he's been in that environment looking for victims for a while. I'm sure he's come close to committing that crime before as well. So he's analyzed people, and that's another thing that I talk about in my training. Situational awareness for me is half about detecting threats on the street, and it's half about how you're perceived by these threats, these human predators. So when they're looking at you to see, oh, can I get away with this? Is this person an easy victim? Every hurdle you can put in the way will make it harder for them. It's a risk versus reward factor, and it might move them on to an easier victim. And that, for you personally, that's all you need to do. So you don't need to be the biggest lion on the plane. You just have to not appear to be the weakest gazelle. Is something that I like to ramp on about.
No, 100%, man. That's 90% of it. What would you say has transitioned from your work doing more of the espionage stuff into executive protection? Are there any specific things that you can talk about real quick for the EP guys listening that you've seen?
Just be conscious of not all the threats out there are like life danger and threats. The exploitation of information is a big threat, and a lot of people don't really take this into account. I have a lot of discussions in the jobs I've done in Canada trying to tell them about like cell phone exploitation and Wi-Fi exploitation, vehicle tracking devices, and they just look at me like I'm living in some James Bond, Jason Bourne world. But and I get a bit annoyed because no, like this happens because I used to do this. Like this is why we don't leave the vehicle unattended. A bomb being placed in Canada is very unlikely, although it could happen. But a vehicle tracker is quite likely if this person works in this company or this corporate world that is his meetings and his information is valuable to his competitors. So these are the sort of jobs that I was doing. So yeah, any sort of exploitation that isn't actually life endangering threat is, as a protector, obviously it's still your job to stop that from happening. And a lot of counter surveillance measures should always be practiced and and adhere to, as well as the normal protector strategies.
No, I love it, man, because there's a digital realm now. Like there's the physical realm where we fight and we look at people, but there's you have a digital footprint when it comes to acquiring information that'll put you guys at risk. Like I can figure out your pattern of life online. I can figure out where you're at online. I can figure out a lot of different things, man. So understanding the digital world, you hop on Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, there's a lot of things that can be done to you. You're plugging your phone and your devices into, and you just got to realize, guys, those threats, it's not just all physical anymore, man. And the guys that know how to play the digital world, they're ahead of the game. Because 90% I'm a grunt, dude. You know what I mean? Like I'm about the guns and all that stuff, but we have to elevate our game as protectors, professional protectors, if we want to stay dangerous. So now for the closing questions, brother. Favorite quote, mantra that you have?
So he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Another Sun Tzu one. So that's all in my philosophy, is about fighting is the last stand. It's the last option. It's a reaction to a very bad problem. So we want to be proactive and use situational awareness and these other skills. So yeah, I like a lot of quotes, but I chose that one today.
Yeah, man, I dig it, dude. Take the ego out, make an accurate assessment, and then make moves, man. That's awesome. I love it, man. A habit that people can look at that you think will help them be better people or better protectors, on a daily or weekly basis, some people can implement in their lives.
Well, I'll be speaking to some people, but maybe not, hopefully not the majority. And it is PT, good old fashioned physical training. People let themselves slip. And, if you want to be the top of the game, this is a big element. And also for me, if I don't train, my mental health and everything in my life just slides downhill slowly, So keeping that physical training habit that we've all done whilst we was in the military, and if that habit can be a fighting sport like maybe jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which I am a big fan of, I love doing that, then you're also learning a practical skill too.
Yeah.
And training in jiu-jitsu for me is like meditation, I need that break of the real world. Like when you're rolling, you think about nothing other than getting strangled and trying not to get strangled. So I'd say maintaining fitness as a habit, which should be a habit for any protector. And it's sometimes hard to do when you're working from hotels all around, but there's always the old body weight workout.
Prison workouts, man, we call them. And the reality is, dude, there's so much science and statistics around it. People that are fit live better lives on every single level. It gets so underrated. Your psychology, your mental health, your emotional intelligence will improve as you put your body under physical strength and strain, and you learn to deal with that. And then it prepares you to deal with life. There's so many benefits to physical exertion, that, and then also when you're doing something as intense as jiu-jitsu, and even for me, the shooting competitions, like you go into that flow state where it's like a mental vacation. Everything else is on, and all you're doing is you're in here, you're working in this space, and you're just focusing completely on one task. It's amazing how cathartic it is, how therapeutic it is. That's how warriors like us stay alive. I think warriors tap out when we can't stretch our legs out, let the beast out for a few minutes a day, and then go back to being PC for everyone. Oh, you're just a big teddy bear. Yeah. Love you.
Yeah.
The better to protect you with, we just sharpen things before you wake up in the morning is what we do.
Yeah, that's it.
I dig it, man. So what are you up to these days? Shameless plug now. You have some amazing products that people can actually take advantage of from the comfort of their own home, which I think is so beautiful about this digital game. But what are you up to these days? Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, trying to grow my Instagram because I got shadow banned for I like to do the breakdown videos like you do, but Instagram doesn't like that. So Instagram, Sixsight.co. And also TikTok is my biggest platform. So I'm trying to break through into the younger generation and try and hit the people that are not looking for this sort of training, the people that won't actually train in self-defense until something bad happens in their life. So that's my first project at the moment. So I've built an online course. Took me 6 months to make. It's called Women's Self-Defense Without Fighting, and it includes a lot of situational awareness, a lot of tradecraft for detecting a follower, detecting threats up ahead, and it gives you the student a lot of training on the other options before the fight, and also contingency plans to get help to you while you're in a bad situation. And that is actually through my link in my bio on Instagram or on my website, which is sixsight.co. And that's free to anyone who wants it. Or if you're doing all right for yourself, then pay what you can. And I'll appreciate if people can pay a little bit, because I spent 6 months working hard on it. But I want people to get this information because it's not taught widely, and I'm trying to get it out. And if you're a protector yourself, if you're a father, this is for daughters who may be going off to college, or wives that come back from work late at night on their own, or go on vacation, business trips. This information is for those that are not really protectors in their mindset and need other options, because a lot of the people I speak to, particularly my wife, she openly says, I'm not going to fight. I don't know how to fight. So this is for them. This is why I built this course. What other options do they have? And that course is the guidelines.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I just put the link to your website in the chat. People go ahead, hop over to all that. I also threw the link to his Instagram up so you guys can follow my man Sony, who's doing some awesome work in the space. I'm glad. Hopefully me and you can join forces on some other projects I got coming down the pipeline, dude.
Oh, definitely. I'm open for all business opportunities.
Heck yeah, man. Blast this stuff out, man. Blast this stuff out to the world. I love your approach. Pay what you can. I'm the same way, man. I'm giving away content because we can make the world a safer place by helping good people become more dangerous, more formidable. I think evil should fear good. They should fear good people. Yeah. Light, and they do, but we need to make it even more so, man. So
yeah, definitely, I agree. And I think it's at times like these we need to strengthen our communities and the people around us more so than ever, and that's an important point. I won't say any more on that, but
yeah, man. No, hey, I completely agree. It's less about government, it's more about good people being connected to good stinking people. I love it. That's good stuff, y'all. Awesome, brother. Well, man, it's an honor. It's an honor to have spent this time with you, dude. I love what you're doing. I love that you're young in the space. We're going to be building stuff together for years. You're going to be out there hammering at your stuff. I'll be hammering at mine. It's a new generation of protectors, and I'm glad that we're in the same game.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I'm a big fan. I'll continue. I've got one question for you, actually, Byron. Right?
Yeah, man.
What's the deal with your Call of Duty? I saw a picture. Was you a model for Call of Duty, or are you a character on there, or what's going on?
Yeah, bruv. Nah, man. I'm sitting here. I was on 2 of the covers, man, for Black Ops and for Modern Warfare. It was one of the greatest honors of my life. And I, admittedly, since I'm so busy hammering and everything, I haven't even been able to get into the game really to see if I have a skin yet. I don't think I do, but I know I'm like all throughout the art of the game, man. So,
oh man, that's awesome! Living the dream.
So cool, so yeah, man, great win there, dude. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's one of the cool things. Just at the end of the day, with me, I want people to see what like an imperfect dude can actually do if you just do the best you can with what you have, and let the grace of God, proper planning meets opportunity. Work hard, and then when that stuff happens, you seem to get lucky, right? So everything I have is by the grace of God and through hard work, So yeah, man, that was an unintended beautiful consequence of being on the path of unlocking potential, my dude.
That's awesome. That's one to tell the grandkids about, isn't it?
Yeah, I have proof, I got proof. There's pictures. That was legit at one point in time. I want to hear it, Heck yeah.
Nice.
Cool, brother.
Thanks for connecting. It's good to chat. Anything you need from me in the future, and anyone ask me questions on my social media, I love to speak to people that want to learn as well. So anybody, just reach out, and I'm open for any opportunities.
Outstanding. Yeah, man. Hit Sony up. He's up and coming, and he's doing some amazing things. It's an honor to be connected. Boom. Yo, what up? I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. Hey, listen, in order to get more out of the brand, I want to encourage you to go join us on our social media platforms and join us at protectornation.com. We post different types of content on our different platforms at different times. You'll get blog posts, you'll get videos, you'll get real world combat engagements and things like that. So stay plugged in order to get the most out of the brand. In order to support us, also go to protectornation.com and buy something, or join forces with me on Patreon. You'll scroll down the homepage and you'll see the link. Anything you can give counts. Think about whatever you would lose in your cushions or like spend on McDonald's this month, $5 a month, whatever it is. That helps us make the world a better place by making good people dangerous. Anyways, this is Byron Rodgers, protector by nature and by trade, and I'll see you on the next piece of content, whether it's a video or podcast. Out.